10-year-old boys. What are they usually into? Sports, games, going out with their friends. And most of them are probably starting to become interested and curious about sex. And when they're on their iPhones or their tablets, what might pop up or be searched for? Possibly images of beautiful women and video footage of what might be done with their bodies. They're curious. They watch, they enjoy, and they learn. They're young boys, right? It's natural. And if they weren't interested in sex, it'd be kind of scary. The future of the human race might be at risk. But actually, there is a dark side to what's happening with our youth because of cybernet porn. And looking at the history of cybernet porn, it's really a new phenomenon. There was a big turning point in about 1995. So really just about a 20-year history. And so much is happening so quickly that it's really hard for society to keep up. For parents like me, educators like me, the media. And there's a lot of new research. Some of it you might already know of, and some maybe not. So today I'd like to focus on some research points that are related to what I'm really concerned about. And this is how highly addicting porn is, especially for our youth, and how it's messing with their brains, and it's also seriously messing with their ability to function in society. Now this sounds like a pretty dark topic, huh? But I'm an optimist, and I know that there's something we can do about this. But it really depends on how quickly we move and how well we work together. So let's look at this. What do you think the average age of a boy is? And I'm going to focus on boys in this talk because the fact of the matter is the majority of viewers of cybernet porn are male. So again, what do you think the average age of a boy is who's exposed to porn? 11. 11 years old. And we can link this back to the curiosity. That's when they're starting to become curious about sex. They want to know. They should know. But unfortunately, they aren't getting this education at school, most of them. And most boys are saying that their parents aren't talking with them about it at home either. So how are they learning about sex? Most of them are turning to porn as their tool, or to friends who learn from porn, even scarier sometimes. And again, you might think, okay, they need to learn, so what's the big deal? Let them watch. And they do. There was an Italian study that came out just in May, and it focused on 1,500 boys in their last year of high school. And they polled them about their viewing of cybernet porn. 78% said they view porn regularly. 78%. That was shocking for me. And out of that, 9.1 said that they had some sort of addiction. They felt they were addicted to porn somehow. And this is a really new field, so the boys don't really know what to do about it. And how about you? Have you ever heard of cybernet porn addiction? Is this something we talk about in the media? No, it's not something that I know much about or I've heard about until recently. But you think about that study, 1 in 15 boys thinking that they're possibly addicted to porn. That's really scary. And youth, why is there a difference between what's happening with the youth and older viewers of porn? There's actually a really simple reason. It has to do with brain development. When a young boy is watching porn, there are these incredible surges of chemicals in the center of the brain called dopamine. And the more they watch, the stronger these surges get. But a boy's brain isn't fully developed until about the age of 16 or 17. So while these surges are occurring, the outer part of the brain isn't strong enough to counteract it. And there's some serious brain damage happening for boys who are watching more and more. And doctors are finding the brain's being rewired. And neuroscientists in recent studies found that this rewiring is identical to the rewiring in a brain of someone who's addicted to heroin. Now, I'm a mom. I certainly wouldn't let my son go up in his room and do hard drugs, right? But inadvertently, parents, we don't know about this. And the kids are up in their rooms, they have their private time, they have access to the internet, and they're getting affected in the exact same way as if they were taking hard drugs. That's really scary. And the addiction happens so quickly because the surges just get stronger and stronger. So it's in this downward spiral, and before the kids know it, they are addicted. And what are we finding that's happening? What are the effects of this addiction? And this is also something that really surprised me. I had no clue about this just even 2 years ago. That researchers are finding there's a direct relationship between cybernet viewing often, and depression, and social anxiety, low concentration, so this is affecting our boys' academic performance, and in so many different ways. And we're also finding, and this is something I'm sure you know a lot about from the news, hikikomori. Here in Japan, we have a huge issue with hikikomori. And let's look at the history of this. That was a term that was coined by a Japanese psychiatrist, Dr. Tamaki Saito, in his 1998 book, Social Withdrawal, A Never-Ending Adolescence. Look at the timing of this. 1998, he found there was a phenomenon going on. In 1995 was when cybernet porn became available worldwide. Seems like a coincidence? I think there might be a direct relationship. And the World Health Organization did a study here in Japan on who is hikikomori. And for those of you who are not familiar with this term, Dr. Saito defined it as a youth who totally withdraws from society, staying in their house or more often in their room for at least 6 months. So this is a really serious issue. So the World Health Organization studied this in Japan and found that 80% of hikikomori are male. And almost all of them from middle-class families. So it sounds like the population who's also viewing the internet and quite possibly seeing porn. There seems to be a direct relation. And unfortunately, other Western countries as well, in Spain, France, and Italy, are also, researchers are starting to use the term hikikomori. They're finding that more and more of their youth also fit this definition. So they're finding that hikikomori really has nothing to do with cultures, nothing to do with social status. So what is it related to? As an educator, I'm really concerned about this. And studies are finding that there is a direct relationship between internet porn viewing and depression, isolation, and hikikomori. And some of these studies go back, I mean, it doesn't sound that long, but 11 years ago. So scientists, researchers do know that this is becoming a bigger and bigger social problem. And what can we do about it? So this is where my optimist side comes through. I want to do something about this. And I think that the sociologist, Dr. Patricia Greenfield, what she said makes the most sense to me. She said that the #1 way to lessen viewage of cybernet porn is to have a warm, communicative family relationship. And also she calls for changing education. So I started thinking about my own experience with social issues. And when I was young, I was educated about different things. And I was given the opportunity to be responsible and to make decisions that would change my life. For example, in the 1980s, a group called MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, was formed. And as a first-year high school student, me and my friends were studying and getting, all excited about having our driver's license. And at the same time, a few of these women came to my school. And they talked to us. What are the dangers about drinking alcohol and getting behind the wheel? And as you could see, they also showed really, really shocking video footage and photos like this one. This could happen to you if you drank alcohol and drove. So my friends, we got our license. We also went to parties sometimes and did drink alcohol at times. But we always made sure we had a designated driver. So we got home safe. It was good. And this same group put pressure on the government for more research. What's going on with alcohol and drugs in our youth? And so the government created some public service announcements, PSAs, about hard drug use. And like this visual, you could see there was one that really shocked me. Psh, psh, 2 eggs being fried in a frying pan. And this low, ominous voice saying, "This is your brain on drugs." As a teenager, that was shocking for me. And I entered university, and I went to the occasional party, and different substances were offered to me. I won't tell you where I went, but because of this education, I could make wise decisions. So I was just able to say, "No, thank you," on a natural high. You tell with my personality, people believe me. But to myself, I remembered this commercial, and I thought, I like my brain the way it is, thank you very much. And that worked. And so here I am. Now we have a new phenomenon that our kids are facing, internet cyber porn. And we're the first generation of parents to have to talk to our kids about this. I don't know much about it. I know my circle of friends don't know much about it. Why don't we get together and create an association, create a movement so we can educate ourselves, so we can have these dialogues with our kids. They deserve a better education than they're getting in the home and at school. Let's look at what's happening at school. Most countries don't have a very strong sex ed program. And here in Japan, I'm not sure if you know, but in 2002, when Koizumi was prime minister, the Ministry of Education declared that no elementary or junior high school teachers could talk about sexual intercourse in their sex ed classes. Now, I'm a language teacher. It'd be like a school asking me to teach French, but Renee, don't teach French grammar. It'd be kind of hard. And these teachers, not only was it hard, they knew it was also potentially dangerous for their students. And a couple years later, in 2007, there was a group of teachers who made an appeal at the Japanese Diet. And at that time, Koizumi was a Diet member. So I watched this YouTube video of his response to their appeal. And he said, when I was young, we learned about sex slowly and naturally. So there's no need to teach our kids about sex. That might be true, but when he was young, there was no cybernet internet porn. So our kids are in a totally different generation, and we have to educate them differently. Now, how about if we can have a conversation like this with our kids? If we can be frank and humble and just say, listen, I know a lot of kids are learning about sex and they're learning about porn on the internet. And I don't know much about this because my parents didn't talk to me about sex and I didn't grow up with cyber porn. Why don't we sit down and learn about this together and talk about this together? How different the lives of the children could possibly be. I'm a mom. I have 2 young kids. My daughter's 12, and my son turns 8 today. Happy birthday, Rocky. Yeah, and they're really great kids, and they have big dreams. And when my son was 5, he loved to draw rainbow rockets. That was what he was into. So here's an example of one of his rainbow rockets. And I look at these pictures and I could just imagine the dreams that he was holding and how he knew he could just go straight to the sky. He could achieve anything in his life. And as his mom, I don't want anything to come in between him and his potential, especially not cybernet porn. Can you imagine a society where every last child could live to their full potential and achieve all of their dreams? Let's make this happen. Let's do this now. Thank you.